Pleasure to have you here. Served in the Army when?
Well, I retired in 1998 after 30 years.
So 30 years. So it apparently worked out all right for you.
It did. It was a great career.
Did you get in with the idea of it being a career, or you're like every kid that needed to figure out if it would work that way?
No, matter of fact, when my older brother led the way as far as the military and the family, and that's why I went on to join. But when I came back from Vietnam after the 2 years, I had enough of this Army. But my wife had seen too many guys get off the plane with absolutely no idea what they wanted to do.
What are they going to do and what's next?
And so she said, why don't you stay just one more year and figure out what you want to do? So 28 years, 1 year later, when I still hadn't figured out what I wanted to do. But it was very, very good advice. We enjoyed the time.
It turned out to be a good life.
It did, yes, very much so.
You served in part in the Army in a pretty unique capacity in Hawaii. Explain what you did there.
Yes, prior to my retirement, I was Director of Casualty and Memorial Affairs for the Army. And in that position, I kind of divided my responsibilities into two areas. One, we were responsible for the notification of the next of kin when the soldier would die.
Which is brutal.
So, yep, it certainly can be. And the other part, though, which I'm sharing this weekend here with the folks, it was a search and recovery and identification for all of the service members from all services, not just the Army, but lost in prior conflicts.
That'll be tomorrow for the folks that are here at 10 a.m. and again at 1 p.m. A keynote speaker on Fallen But Not Forgotten, the search and recovery of POW MIAs from prior wars. Statistically, what we know is at the end of the Vietnam War for the United States, there were 2,646 combat folks, POWs and MIAs. And as of April of this year, there were still 1,600 plus that were unaccounted for.
Yes, as of today, 1,626, 10 of whom listed their home of record as being Chicago.
How about that? Now, what I also found interesting too, and did a little research for today, because it makes total sense, but I hadn't thought about it. When there's a recovery of remains, and obviously services to follow, that name is also added to the wall.
Yes, the names are generally going to be on the wall already as missing in action. And the difference in the wall in D.C. is that those who are missing in action have a cross beside their name. And once they're recovered, identified, and returned, then that turns into a diamond. And that's how you can look at the wall in D.C. to identify which is which.
You know, we tried today to celebrate as much as deal with the seriousness of the moment, but I can't imagine what it's like to be a part of that division that tells family members that the person you love has been lost. When you got into that, I mean, you were asked to do that duty, and when you got into the leadership post in that position, does that ever become, you know, routine?
No, each and every one of them is as individual as the case itself, and we never know how the family is going to react. It opens up a lot of times a chapter in the life that has already been kind of closed up, but the void is still there. And as an example, we brought back the remains of a World War II veteran out of the Czech Republic, back to his unremarried widow, who had been waiting for 52 years at the time. She understood that he was dead, but it was her lifelong hope that some way, somehow, her husband could be returned to be buried with her. And so she was just beside herself with gratitude. So although it's extremely demanding, after one of my presentations, a lady came up and said, "Colonel, what you do and how you show everything that goes on in the field, that's a lot of hard work." And I responded, "Yes, but it's really heart work."
It's a great way of putting it, and it had to be, in the case of the woman you mentioned, unbelievably rewarding to be able to give her that closure.
Yes, yeah, and she was beside herself with gratitude. We brought back the remains of a Korean War veteran here 2 years ago this December now. They had been married in 1946. He joined the Army in 48, went to Korea in 50. And before leaving, he said, "Sweetheart, if I don't come home, I want you to get on with life, get remarried, and carry on." And she said, "No, no, no. I married you for life." And she honored that commitment until we brought back her husband 2 years ago in December. The widow is now 94 years old. And I've got pictures of her just weeping uncontrollably over that flag-draped casket.
I suppose in some ways, with each one of those messages that you deliver, you become part of that family story too.
Pretty much so. We talked here a little bit earlier about the children of our veterans. We brought back the remains of a Vietnam pilot in 1995, finally got him identified in 2005. And I got connected with the family. It was the Leighton family out of Wires Cove, Virginia. When the pilot got shot down and was killed, by and large, it's probably too simplistic, but the mother brought the kids around the kitchen table and said, you know, your father died in service to his country. And for all intents and purposes, that's kind of where the life ended as far as the father was concerned. Kids, not a lot of discussion.
Right, which is what Duffy was talking about too.
And the mother went on, got remarried about 10 years later. And so when we got the remains identified, she was no longer officially the next of kin. So it fell to the oldest son. And it was he who got the knock on the door and advised of the recovery of his father's remains. I made arrangements for him to go on out to Hawaii and escort his father's remains back to Arlington. And he and I have shared the stage together, where I will get up and talk about the search and recovery missions like I will do here tomorrow. But I talk specifically about his father's case. And then he will get up and talk about the significance that has for the family.
Wow.
You know, and it permitted him to reestablish a family legacy concerning his father to his kids that probably would never have been possible.
Amazing bookends, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It's a story that you can hear in detail tomorrow as well. You'll speak again at 10 and 1?
10 and 1, right here.
Colonel Warden Nickisch. Are you a Chicago guy or Virginia?
No, I live in Northern Virginia, just right outside of Washington, D.C.
How often are you asked to speak during the course of your career?
Quite often. I'm no longer officially, since I'm retired, I'm no longer officially with the unit, but I love this mission so much that I travel the country speaking about my work and trying to keep the people just aware of the commitment that this country has to honor their veterans. You know, when we land in Vietnam, as an example, with all our helicopters and all of our gear and everything else, we're quite often the most significant thing that's happened in that village for a long time.
That's a good point.
And they ask us, why is it that you Americans spend so much time, effort, and money in search of some bones? And it gives us the opportunity to talk to them about how we Americans respect life itself, the respect that we have for the veterans, and the commitment that we have to the families to do everything possible to bring their fallen loved ones back home.
Yeah, that's paying it forward, isn't it?
Absolutely.
1,626 unaccounted for, and the mission goes on.
Yes. Each and every day, we've got teams around the world in search of our fallen. We've presently got 126 unaccounted for from the Cold War, primarily aircraft shoot-downs over Eastern Russia.
Right.
1626 from Southeast Asia, all countries. Over 7,800 from Korea. And as we sit here enjoying the time here at Orland Park this morning, we've got over 73,000 unaccounted for from World War II.
Is that right?
But we still are finding them. We're still on the missions.
God bless. It's amazing work, and I thank you for doing it. How about I end again for Colonel Warden, U.S. Army retired, and for your staff and everybody else who helps you with it as well. I hope everybody comes out tomorrow and hears more detail about the work that you continue to do. Thank you, sir.
I want to thank the mayor and everybody involved here in Orland Park. For
pretty amazing people, aren't they?
They are. They're absolutely. They're patriots in their own
This is
right.
the honorary mayor, Andre Darlis, right here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We'll take a break, come back, Bill and Wendy next, but not until we hear from Andrea's